Getting to know Jeff McNeil. 0 hours 4 minutes and 16 seconds. New York Mets utility man Jeff McNeil has been a fan favorite since being called up in July 2018. SNY got an inside look into Jeff's life. Mets INF Jeff McNeil took an unconventional road to the major leagues. When he was young, he was walking around swinging a club, not a bat. Golf was the first sport that he was introduced to, as baseball came after. He would go on to play in tournaments across the country, including the U.S. Junior Amateur. But McNeil was forced to make a choice once he reached high school. It was either golf or baseball. The 26-year-old admitted golf became his sport, mainly because his team was filled with his friends. "One of the reasons I played golf instead of baseball was because our team was so good," McNeil told SNY in an exclusive interview out in his home California. "I mean, all my friends played, so I wanted to be out there with them." McNeil spent 3 seasons on Nipomo High School's golf team before switching back to baseball his senior year. And after a tremendous season, he initially committed to Cal State Northridge. However, Northridge's head coach left, so McNeil changed his mind and went to a baseball powerhouse in Long Beach State. "It's been long, it's been hard. But I wouldn't change it, it's been amazing," McNeil said. "Playing college baseball, it's not easy. And then going all the way through the minor leagues. It's been a grind." McNeil finally cracked the big leagues last year on July 24, 2018, and made the best of first impressions with a base knock on the first pitch he saw. From there, he would have an impressive season that puts him in position to make the opening day roster when camp breaks in Port St. Lucie this March. Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen has brought in more infielders this offseason, including veteran Truby Robinson Cano, who booted him from the position. But the Mets didn't trade McNeil despite some speculation they would, and instead, Van Wagenen views him as a super utility player that could see some outfield work. No matter where he is playing, McNeil is ready for whatever the 2019 season has in store for him. "I'm going to do the same thing I did last year," he said. "I'm not going to change anything. Just go out there and play hard." Jed Lowrie talks to Andy Martino. 0 hours 1 minute and 9 seconds. SNY baseball insider Andy Martino talks with newest New York Mets player Jed Lowrie to discuss analytics, the upcoming season and his role. Veteran utility man Jed Lowrie chose to sign a 2-year deal with the Mets this offseason, and following his introductory press conference, he showed his excited about the team's direction in an exclusive interview with SNY's Andy Martino. Asked about how Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen is constructing the team in his first offseason as in this role, Lowrie sees all the makings of a championship contender. He explains how all the pieces on the Mets right now add up to a winning formula. March 17, 2018, West Palm Beach, FL, USA, a general view from behind home plate at the ballpark of the Palm Beaches prior to the spring training game between the Washington Nationals and the New York Mets. Mandatory credit, Jason Vinlove. USA Today Sports. Jason Vinlove. The Mets officially announced 13 additional players that were invited to spring training this season. Headlining the group is 1B Peter Alonso, who GM Brodie Van Wagenen has already noted could break camp as the opening day starter. Since that comment, though, he has brought in multiple infielders like Jed Lowrie and J.D. Davis, who provide more competition for Alonso. During Lowrie's introductory press conference on Wednesday, Van Wagenen said he hopes that added competition gives Alonso some more motivation this spring. September 3, 2018, Miami, Florida, USA. Philadelphia Phillies relief pitcher Luis Avilan, 70, throws in the 8th inning against the Miami Marlins at Marlins Park. Mandatory credit, Steve Mitchell. USA Today Sports. Steve Mitchell. The signing of left-handed reliever Luis Avilan went mostly unnoticed as it occurred the same day the Mets signed veteran infielder Jed Lowrie to a 2-year deal. However, I'm told by team sources that the organization firmly believes Avilan can successfully replace Jerry Blevins as the team's primary left-handed reliever. is smart pickup by the Mets, and whoever led the charge on him, an American League scout told me. He has pitched exceptionally well since finding command of his changeup. John Harper, SNY.TV, Twitter, curious as to why the Mets hired a hitting coach, Chili Davis, who lasted all of 1 year with the Cubs. Here are a couple of reasons to believe it was more of a well-reasoned decision than you might think. First, there is not a more perilous job in baseball these days than that of hitting coach, thanks partly to the launch angle revolution, which has way too many hitters trying to be J.D. Martinez, and partly to the rise of personal hitting coaches that convince way too many hitters in the off-season they can be J.D. Martinez. That also explains why, by longtime hitting coach Dave Magadan's count, no fewer than 17 teams this offseason had openings for that very position. Mets GM on NL East, come get us 0 hours 0 minutes and 19 seconds. Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen says that the Mets intend to compete for a championship, and it starts with winning the division. Since taking over as Mets GM, Brodie Van Wagenen's words have been just as aggressive as his offseason approach. And that continued at Jed Lowrie's introductory press conference on Wednesday. In his last introductory press conference, this one for C. Wilson Ramos, Van Wagenen said, "Internally, we can argue we are the favorites in the division right now." Well, he didn't stray away from that mindset as he said he is anxious to show teams, especially in the NL East, what the Mets are capable of this season. "I look forward to showing people that we're a team to be reckoned with," Van Wagenen told reporters. "Let's not be shy on wanting to be the best, and I fully expect us to be competitive, to be a winning team. Our goal is to win a championship, and it starts with the division. So come get us." Mets GM addresses offseason 0 hours 3 minutes and 13 seconds. Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen shares his thoughts on Peter Alonso, the chances for more offseason deals, and Jacob deGrom's contract status. After introducing Jed Lowrie on Wednesday at Citi Field, Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen stopped short of saying the team is done making big moves this offseason. But he said an outfield upgrade is not a top priority at the moment. "If other opportunities present themselves down the road, we'll be open to them," Van Wagenen said during the press conference introducing Lowrie. But he went into greater detail during his scrum with reporters after. "Let's be candid. The outfield is probably not our top priority at this point because with Jeff McNeil going out to the outfield, he gives us another really good weapon to be in the lineup on a potentially everyday basis," Van Wagenen said. "By adding Kean Broxton in a trade a couple of weeks ago, he now gives us even more coverage, protection, and competition for 1. Log RS out there." USA infielder Peter Alonso hits a 2-run home run in 7th inning against the World team during the 2018 All-Star Futures game at Nationals Park. Jeff Burke, USA Today Sports. Mets top prospect 1B Peter Alonso has repeatedly said he wants to be on the team's opening day roster when camp breaks in March. But, as the team introduced veteran super utility man Jed Lowrie at Citi Field on Wednesday, we're reminded of how much competition Alonso will have to reach that goal. In what looked like a clear path to start at first in the beginning of the offseason, Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen has brought in Lowrie and J.D. Davis to create a jam for Alonso. Even Todd Frazier could make the shift to first with Jeff McNeil virtually kicked out of second base after the Robinson-Cano trade. So what do all these moves mean for the 24-year-old, who absolutely raked in the minors last season? Van Wagenen says the added pressure should provide even more motivation for Alonso. Jed Lowrie excited to be a Met. 0 hours 1 minute and 40 seconds. Jed Lowrie talked with Andy Martino after he was introduced by the Mets on Wednesday. Lowrie is excited for the opportunity to play in NY. Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen said Wednesday that Jed Lowrie will be playing virtually every day, noting that he'll see time at shortstop in addition to second base and third base. Van Wagenen also said the team signed Lowrie with the intent of keeping Todd Frazier. If true, it will mean some serious work for Mickey Callaway to figure out how to distribute playing time. "We want Mickey and the coaching staff to be collaborating with players," Van Wagenen said at Citi Field after introducing Lowry, adding that he also wants the front office to collaborate with Callaway. New York Mets Wilmer Flores walks back to the dugout after flying out against Cincinnati Reds relief pitcher Amir Garrett in the 8th inning of a baseball game, Wednesday, May 9, 2018, in Cincinnati. AP photo, John Minchillo, AP, the one where Wilmer Flores finds a new home. The former Mets infielder has agreed to a one-year contract with a club option for 2020 with the Arizona Diamondbacks, according to ESPN's Jeff McNeil. The deal is pending a physical. Mets sources have been saying since December's winter meetings that Jeff McNeil will get time this spring playing second base, third base, outfield and possibly some first base. These statements were hinted at before Jed Lowry was inked to a 2-year deal, so they are probably even more true today than 8 weeks ago. McNeil was awesome last season, albeit in a small sample size. The thing is, the guy has always hit regardless of the level of competition. And since being forced to change his swing after suffering an injury 2 years ago, he's developed extra base pop that no longer can be viewed as a fluke. September 15, 2018, St. Petersburg, FL, USA, Oakland Athletics second baseman Jed Lowry, 8, fields a ground ball during the 5th inning against the Tampa Bay Rays at Tropicana Field. Mandatory credit, Reinhold Mate. USA Today Sports, Reinhold Mate. The Mets officially announced the signing of INF Jed Lowry on Tuesday, and they will have a press conference at 2 p.m. on Wednesday at Citi Field to introduce him to the New York media. SNY will be airing the press conference on our Twitter and Facebook pages, and immediately following the introduction, SNY's MLB insider Andy Martino will have an exclusive interview with Lowry and Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen. Lowry signed a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Mets, and he will be an everyday quality player who will serve in a super utility role, as Martino put it. April 28, 2017, Kansas City, Mo, USA. Kansas City Chiefs number 10 pick Patrick Mahomes 2 poses for a photo with his mother Randy and father Pat during the press conference at Stram Theater. Mandatory credit, Denny Medley. USA Today Sports, Denny Medley, the most talked about quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, 2 of the Chiefs, is the son of former Mets pitcher Pat Mahomes, who you may remember from Bobby Valentine's postseason teams in 1999 and 2000. Earlier this season, the young Mahomes arrived at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City wearing his father's No. 23 Mets jersey. Pat Mahomes was honestly one of the best guys I ever managed, Valentine told me earlier Monday about the elder Mahomes. He was a pitcher, but also one of the best athletes I ever had. He could hit and run the bases, so much so I considered occasionally using him in the outfield. October 3, 2018, Los Angeles, California, USA. Los Angeles Dodgers infielder Manny Machado waits for his turn in the batting cage prior to Game 1 of the 2018 NLDS Playoff Baseball Series at Dodger Stadium. Mandatory credit, Robert Hanashiro. USA Today Sports, Robert Hanashiro. The Philadelphia Phillies could finally be ready to spend stupid money this offseason, and possibly beyond. Per USA Today's Bob Nightingale, the Phillies have visions of signing Bryce Harper, Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell, and speculates that Harper and Manny Machado could both be signed by the team. FanCred's John Heyman also reports that the Phillies are in excellent position to sign either Harper or Manny Machado, and that regardless of who they sign this winter, they will make a play for Mike Trout in 2 years if he does not sign an extension with the Angels. Arizona Diamondbacks center fielder A.J. Pollock warms up before his at-bat against the San Francisco Giants during the 3rd inning at it. Stan Zito, USA Today Sports. The Mets are monitoring the market of free agent center fielder A.J. Pollock, reports SNY's Andy Martino. According to Martino, the Mets could be in play for Pollock if he becomes open to a pillow contract, or an opt-out after the first year of a potential deal. Danny Abriano, SNY.TV, Twitter. The Mets have had a strong off-season, but signing Pollock could put an exclamation point of sorts on it. He should be signed regardless of whether or not Bryce Harper and/or Manny Machado wind up signing in the NL East. New York Mets catcher Travis d'Arnaud is seen during the second inning of an exhibition spring training baseball game against the Houston Astros Tuesday, Feb. 27, 2018, in Port St. Lucie, Florida. AP photo, Jeff Roberson, AP. Although they recently traded Kevin Plawecki, the Mets are open to trading Travis d'Arnaud as well, reports SNY's Andy Martino. According to Martino, if the Mets deal d'Arnaud, they could look to sign a different backup catcher. However, Martino also notes that minor leaguer Tomas Nido is also on their radar when it comes to a potential answer as a backup. The 29-year-old d'Arnaud was a non-tender candidate earlier this offseason, but the Mets ultimately decided to offer him arbitration, with the two sides agreeing to a one-year deal worth $3.515 million. March 18, 2017, Jupiter, FL, USA. New York Mets shortstop Andres Gimenez, 83, connects for a base hit against the St. Louis Cardinals during a spring training game at Roger Dean Stadium. The Mets defeated the Cardinals 5-4. Mandatory credit, Scott Rovac. USA Today Sports. Scott Rovac, Andres Gimenez, viewed by most as the top prospect in the Mets system, has been honored as the shortstop on MLB Pipeline's All-Defense team for 2019. Gimenez reached Double-A as a teenager, partially because of an advanced approach at the plate, but also because of his glove work at the premium position, MLB.com, as Jonathan Mayo wrote. He has the hands, arms, range and internal clock to play the position long-term, even if he has to slide over to second in deference to Amed Rosario. The 20-year-old Gimenez was one of the youngest players in Double-A when he was promoted in the middle of the 2018 season, and the expectation is that he will open the 2019 season there. If he performs well, a promotion to Triple-A and/or the big leagues at some point in 2019 could be in the cards. It's possible that in just 3 years, the era of Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Steven Matz and Zach Wheeler with the Mets will be nothing but a memory. It seems like just yesterday that the above group, plus Matt Harvey, were popping champagne bottles on their way to the World Series. The future was bright. Zach Wheeler will be free to leave after this season. deGrom, 30, can be a free agent 2 years from now, with Noah Syndergaard and Steven Matz up for free agency the year after that. The hope is that, at the very least, deGrom will be inked to a long-term contract extension before he can sniff the open market. However, the longer both sides wait, the more he will be tempted by freedom. Mel Stottlemyre passes away 0 hours 0 minutes and 58 seconds. SNY's John Harper and Anthony McCarron reflect on the life and legacy of Mel Stottlemyre. Former Yankees and Mets pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre died at age of 77 at his home in Seattle on Sunday night, as first reported by Bill Madden of the New York Daily News. Stottlemyre had endured a long battle with bone marrow cancer. He won a World Series as Mets pitching coach in 1986. And won 4 World Series as pitching coach for the Yankees from their title run between 1996 to 2000. In one off-season, the Mets went from having none of the top 10 second basemen in baseball to having 2 of them, at least according to MLB Network's Top 10 Second Basemen Right Now show. But the order might surprise you. Jed Lowrie, who the Mets signed to a 2-year deal last week, comes in at No. on the list, behind Jose Altuve of the Astros. Robinson Cano, who the Mets acquired along with Edwin Diaz from the Mariners in December, checks in at No. 4. SNY illustration. While the Mets have had a very good offseason, a nightmare scenario for them in the NL East could be getting closer to becoming a reality. After emerging from their meeting with free agent of Bryce Harper on Saturday, the Phillies remain optimistic that they will snag either Harper or free agent SS3B Manny Machado, reports Matt Breen of Philly.com. According to Breen, the Phillies seem to prefer Machado. And if the Phillies land Machado, that would theoretically increase the odds that Harper returns to the Nationals, who have reportedly again emerged as a strong suitor for him. Harper is also drawing interest from the White Sox. September 26, 2018, New York City, New York, USA. New York Mets starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, 48, pitches against the Atlanta Braves during the first inning at Citi Field. Mandatory credit, Brad Penner. USA Today Sports. Brad Penner, Andy Martino, SNY.TV. Twitter, Jacob deGrom and the Mets agreed to an historic one-year contract on Friday, avoiding salary arbitration with a one-year, $17 million deal, as SNY was first to report. That contract represented the largest raise in arbitration history, $9.6 million, and a record salary for a third-time arbitration-eligible pitcher. It will certainly not hurt the chances that the player and team will agree on a long-term extension. New York Mets starting pitcher Jacob deGrom reacts after the top of the eighth inning against the Atlanta Braves at Citi Field. Brad Penner, USA Today Sports. Friday is the deadline for teams to exchange numbers with players who are arbitration eligible. If a deal is not agreed upon, they must schedule a hearing next month in front of a panel of arbitrators to determine that player's salary for the 2019 season. Teams that do not reach details could still negotiate up until the hearing date on a one-year contract or multi-year extension. August 28, 2018, Chicago, Illinois, USA. New York Mets starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, 48, smiles during the fourth inning against the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field. Mandatory credit, Patrick Gorski. USA Today Sports. Patrick Gorski, Jacob deGrom and the Mets agreed to a one-year, $17 million contract for 2019, avoiding arbitration, as first reported by SNY's Andy Martino. It is a $9.6 million raise for the 30-year-old right-hander, a record raise for a third-time arbitration-eligible pitcher. While it means no extension for the reigning Cy Young Award winner, an extension still remains a priority, sources tell Martino. How does Lowry impact Alonso? 0 hours 0 minutes and 27 seconds. Adam Fisher discusses how the Jed Lowry signing puts a dent in the chances that Peter Alonso can make the Mets' opening day roster. Signing Jed Lowry to a two-year, $20 million deal did more than add depth to the Mets' infield. It created a logjam that could impact top prospect Peter Alonso. While Alonso has repeatedly said he wanted to be the Mets' opening day first baseman and GM Brodie Van Wagenen wouldn't rule out the possibility that the 24-year-old Alonso could make the Major League roster out of spring training. Signing Lowry means it's not a deal-breaker if Alonso starts the season in the minors. That's part of the sacrifice the Mets may have to make. Given MLB's service time rules, the Mets could benefit with Alonso starting the season at the AAA level by getting another year of team control. Will Lowry be a super utility? 0 hours 0 minutes and 46 seconds. Todd Sale talks from experience when he discusses the challenges facing Jed Lowry as he takes on multiple positions for the Mets. Andy Martino, SNY.TV. Twitter, the Mets' acquisition of infielder Jed Lowry on a two-year, $20 million deal that is still pending a physical crowds their infield, and has the potential to squeeze Jeff McNeil's playing time. As a solution, the Mets plan to use McNeil in the outfield in 2019, according to a person familiar with the plans. At the beginning of the offseason, McNeil was penciled in as the starting second baseman. He was nearly shipped to Seattle in the Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz trade, but the Mets pulled him out of that deal at the last minute, and replaced him with reliever Gerson Bautista. September 7, 2015, Washington, D.C., USA. Washington Nationals outfielder Bryce Harper, 34, prepares to bat in the ninth inning against the New York Mets at Nationals Park. Mandatory credit, Evan Habib. USA Today Sports. Evan Habib. To date, there have been no published reports indicating the Mets have interest in or will eventually sign Bryce Harper. However, if things break the right way, I see a way Brodie Van Wagenen can step in and steal him. Again, based on talks with industry sources, as well as multiple rival executives, here's what I believe to be true as I type this right now. August 22, 2018, New York City, New York, USA. New York Mets second baseman Jeff McNeil, 68, hits an RBI single against the San Francisco Giants during the second inning at Citi Field. Mandatory credit, Andy Marlin, USA Today Sports. Andy Marlin, Anthony McCarron, SNY.TV. Twitter, might be a strange way to start a story about Jeff McNeil, but here goes. Jed Lowrie is a very good ball player. The Mets are a better club after adding Lowrie on a 2-year, $20 million deal Thursday. He's no, if that's for sure. And the Mets should be applauded for bringing in a switch hitter who should play regularly around the infield and deliver offense, even if some believe they needed a righty outfielder more. But signing Lowrie makes us wonder about McNeil, a second-half sensation last year. Where does he fit now on this Mets roster? Lowrie signing makes sense. 0 hours 0 minutes and 54 seconds. Andy Martino argues while the Lowrie signing might seem puzzling at first, it fits with Brodie Van Wagenen's off-season moves. Andy Martino, SNY.TV, Twitter. Upon first hearing the Mets were closing in on a 2-year, $20 million deal with Jed Lowrie, my first reaction was, what? Lowrie is an excellent player, but he was the A's second baseman last year, and the Mets have Robinson Cano. But upon further digging, it made more sense. According to sources, the Mets view Lowrie as an everyday quality player who will serve in a super utility role. September 25, 2018, Seattle, Washington, USA. Oakland Athletics designated hitter Jed Lowrie, 8, hits an RBI single against the Seattle Mariners during the second inning at Safeco Field. Mandatory credit, Joe Nicholson, USA Today Sports. Joe Nicholson, the Mets brought in another veteran infielder this offseason, signing Jed Lowrie to a 2-year deal on Thursday, SNY's Andy Martino confirmed. According to Martino, the deal is worth $20 million over the 2 years for the 34-year-old. Lowrie had his first All-Star season in 2018, with a .267, .353, .448 line, a career-high 23 homers and 99 RBI over 157 games with the Oakland A's. The Mets' current lineup is better than last year with the additions of Robinson Cano and Wilson Ramos, but is it enough to avoid the offensive ups and downs suffered the past few seasons? The way it stands, Fangraphs.com projects the Mets to have the 7th most productive set of bats in the National League. Overall, the team projects to be the NL's 5th best, but that is largely due to the pitching staff, which projects to be the best. The thing is, if Cano, Ramos or Michael Conforto go down with an injury, let alone 2 of them dropping at the same time, the Mets will return to scrambling when forced to again lean on Todd Frazier to be a veteran, power presence in the lineup. Which is why they need to add more. Tim Tebow mandatory credit, Bob Carp Daily Record via USA Today Network. Bob Carp, Tim Tebow is tying the knot. The Mets prospect proposed to his girlfriend, Demi Lee Nell Peters, a former Miss Universe and Miss South Africa winner, and she said yes. Tebow put the 7.25-carat ring on her finger at a scenic view on his family's farm outside of Jacksonville, Florida, according to People. Click below to see the picture. September 3, 2018, Miami, Florida, USA. Philadelphia Phillies relief pitcher Luis Avilan, 70, throws in the 8th inning against the Miami Marlins at Marlins Park. Mandatory credit, Steve Mitchell, USA Today Sports. Steve Mitchell, the Mets signed left-handed reliever Luis Avilan to a minor league deal, the team announced Thursday. SNY's Andy Martino reported earlier Thursday that the Mets were still looking for a lefty reliever. It's easy to see Avilan filling the Mets' lefty void in the bullpen. Luis is a left-handed quality major league reliever who addresses another off-season priority, Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen said in a statement. We are pleased to see these types of